upgrades or some modules that'll do certain things, there'll be the necessary. It'll be necessary to sometimes change the schema of things, and usually only DVO can do that, depending on how your setup is. All right, so a little checklist in our head here. Let's go back to that slide. Oh, that's upgrade. Downloaded it. It was already there. Unzipped the files to the site directory. Did that. We made sure the site file permissions were there. We created the database. We set up IIS. I took that one out of order, but that stuff doesn't matter as long as it's all done. Okay. So now we're going to visit our website. So I'm going to go to my website. On my machine, don't worry about anywhere.com. I just changed my my host file so that way I can use the domain for debugging when I do URL stuff. But that for me, that's localhost. All right. So I'm going to my directory, and I'm expecting something to bomb here. So hopefully it does bomb like I expect it to. Now right now there's a whole bunch of stuff happening in the background for the site to come up, so we're waiting for it to come up. And what's true of every .NET application, first page load will often have a lot of overhead to it. With DotNetNuke, it's even more overhead because there's a ton of information that gets cached when the application first gets started to make it higher performing. So something I suggest to anybody, if your site doesn't have a regular flux of visitors, use some sort of keep alive service to keep it alive. So that way it gets hit regularly by something and the worker process will never unload your application. Another good thing about that is the keep alive services will tell you if your site's down. Since that's taking so long, let me show you the web config real quick.
What do you call regularly?
Well, depending on how your machine's set up or your web config set up, is the default is under 20 minutes. 20 minutes it'll be unloaded. The free keep alive, there was a keep alive service out there that was completely free. Now they all charge, but they have free versions of their services, and they all are under that 20-minute mark. So I think 15 minutes, but they just don't hit it as frequently, and they have some other restrictions. Real quick, I just want to show you the connection string. You can see that uncommented one, the default one, does go to SQL Express. All right. So if that's the way you wanted to go, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's already there by default. All right. So here we are. We hit the site. It didn't bomb. I'm sorry. There's something in web config. Sometimes I end up having to removing that SQL Express comment for some reason and just having the regular SQL connection string in there. I don't know why it sometimes happens. Sometimes I can refresh and get this page. Other times I have to remove that. But it didn't happen, so that's wonderful, right? Okay, so we have a few options here. So you select your installation method. Auto, what that'll do is just it'll choose all the defaults for you, and you'll end up pretty much at the end where it starts installing everything. Typical, it chooses a couple things for you, but it leaves the ability for you to go through a couple options. What we're going to do is custom, because I like to just see everything, and plus we'll see what you're not going to see if you choose the others. All right. Now, if you have a different language pack installed, you get different languages here. All right. So I chose custom. I'm going to go to next. How come it always seems like it takes longer when people are watching? It's always true. Okay, so what's really cool here is before, if you didn't set your permissions, you'd end up at the point to where you could see your site kind of, and things just wouldn't work quite right. Or sometimes you wouldn't see your site at all and you get some obscure error and you're not sure why. A lot of times that was because of permissions. What's cool in this wizard is I can click and test permissions. This is going to say it worked or didn't work. So basically, you can see the steps it's about to go through. It's going to create a folder, create a file, and it's going to delete both of those. If it can do all four of those things, then it thinks everything's good. All right, so it says I've passed the permissions check. It's wonderful. I'm going to go next. Anybody else have any other questions while waiting for the next page?
Yeah,
I have
go
one.
ahead.
It's not related to something new, but I'm working with the paging control.
Okay.
Paging control to
The .NET paging
the
control?
.NET Nuke
Okay.
paging control. Is there a way to take off that border?
I believe it's stylized. You'll have to look at the rendered HTML to see, but I'm almost sure it's stylized.
I tried to not.
If you look at the
Because there's a border style and equals none. I tried that, and then I tried to border color equals inactive.
well, if you can catch me offline, we can take a look at that. But I believe you can. I believe there's a wrapper for that. There are paging styles in the default style sheet. If you go into portals folder /_default, you'll see a default.css. In there, I believe there's style definitions for that particular control. So you may not have put that style
Yeah, I didn't put any
override.
styling.
Oh, you didn't.
I
Okay.
didn't put any styling in it.
Well, I wouldn't suggest putting anything in that default.css, but in your own skins CSS,
Right.
I would suggest overriding that particular style definition.
Okay.
All right. So the next step here is wanting us to configure the database connection. If I just left this the way it was, it would still work. But I'm going to go ahead and go to the SQL Server database I have on my machine here. All right. It's going to take a moment. Now this one I am used to this taking a moment. The rest of them I should have just. But this one takes just a moment to do whatever check it's doing, and then come up with a different option here. So we'll wait just a second. What was your question?
My thought, does .NET-Nuke help develop an intranet for serving up and utilizing information, like create, update, delete data?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I wanted to have a form that allowed people to enter names and addresses of people and save it and then edit it.
Absolutely. In fact, there's modules out there that already do that right out of the box, so you don't even have to create that module. For any of you that like to save time or are not module developers and want to provide really cool, a lot of functionality, there's a module out there called Xmod. That module is an awesome module. It allows you to do a ton of stuff. All right. In fact, there's people that I would say, if a shop that regularly develops modules, I would say that probably 30% of modules easy could have not been created and they could have used Xmod. All right. So the page came back up. The server, since I'm using my local one, it's going to be local. If you're in a network environment, it could be something else. The database I called JaxDNA. All right. I'm not going to use integrated security. I've had all kinds of problems with that. I don't suggest doing that. So I have to wait another moment for my authentication text boxes to come up. But are you using it for intranet, you said?
Yeah, for
Okay.
internet, for a law office.
Okay.
So we need to be able to track clients and progress of cases. It's very data intensive.
Okay.
Also, being able to track when people call, and like a help desk almost.
There are some help desk modules out there. I think the one I always remember first is called Draconis. You might want to check that one out. Did I get that right? Are you familiar with that one?
Write a note down on help desk, and we can post it on the Orlando.net user group.
That's a great idea. We're going to put some of
Somebody
this
asked
stuff
about
on
help
there.
desk. There's 3 of them that we've researched that are relatively good. Yes. Another one out that's called Old Turtle. When you get into those help desk, is that thing still running?
I don't know that one. I never heard of this.
Is that one? Is your page up?
Yeah, we were just asking a question. My text boxes are up now.
Okay.
All right. So now I'm going to put in my user ID, and that's not web. I swear, it's not web and web. All right. So make sure it's checked to run as DB owner. I'm going to go ahead and click next. So right now, when it gets to that point, it's going to rewrite those items in your web config for you. So that was another step that we had to do. You had to be, you had to be somebody that was XML savvy in order to do that. Obviously, most people that are developers wouldn't consider anything XML savvy. It's like it's just text, but you have to be XML savvy in order to do that. So right now, it's installing the database scripts. All right, it has all these text files that have all these TSQL commands. So right now, it's going